A man in a worn janitor's uniform stood trembling in the corner of a luxury store. His hands covered his face, his shoulders shook. He thought he was alone. But the one person he never expected to see had just walked in, the owner of the entire company, disguised as a customer. And what that owner discovered in that moment would change the store forever. The man in the gray uniform pressed a trembling hand against the mop handle, tears falling onto the polished floor he had just cleaned. His body sagged under invisible weight, his sobs quiet but deep, the kind that came from years of pain, not just minutes of struggle. He thought no one could see him. To the world, he was just the janitor, a background figure in a world that barely noticed his existence. But he was wrong. At that exact moment, the store door swung open, and a tall man in simple clothes stepped inside. He didn't wear a suit, didn't arrive with an entourage, and no one in the room recognized him. To the staff, he was just another customer. But in reality, he was the CEO, the man who had built this company with his own hands, who had walked every aisle and dreamed every dream. And now, he stood watching his employee weep in silence. The CEO's heart tightened. He could have spoken right then, revealed his identity. But instead, he chose to observe. The janitor's sorrow was raw, unguarded. Something was broken here, and he needed to see the truth for himself. The janitor wiped his face, unaware of the eyes fixed on him. His uniform smelled faintly of bleach. His hands were cracked from long hours of scrubbing floors. He bent down again, continuing his work as if the tears were just another spill to be cleaned and hidden. This man had a story, and the CEO knew it. Years ago, the janitor had once been more than just a cleaner. He had been a father, a husband, a man with dreams of his own. But tragedy had stripped him of almost everything. A layoff, a medical bill too large to pay, and the crushing loss of someone he loved had driven him into silence. Now, every day, he carried his grief into the store, unseen by the very people who passed him. And yet, he endured. The CEO noticed something else, the glances from other staff. A cashier smirked when the janitor passed by. A manager rolled his eyes as if the man's tears were a nuisance. Nobody stopped to ask. Nobody cared enough to see. It was easier to ignore. The injustice burned quietly in the CEO's chest. For several minutes, he stayed silent, watching as the janitor picked up his mop again and kept working. The man's dignity was still there, hidden beneath the weight of his sorrow. It was the kind of dignity that didn't need applause. Silent, unshakable. At last, the CEO stepped forward. The room shifted as the staff realized he wasn't just another customer. One manager stiffened, suddenly recognizing his face. Whispers moved quickly across the store. And then, silence. The janitor froze, confused by the sudden attention. His eyes met the CEO's. He didn't understand why the man in front of him carried such authority, such presence. The CEO spoke softly. His words carried not judgment, but truth. A man's worth is not measured by the title on his shirt, but by the strength in his heart. The room grew still. Then came the power shift. The CEO revealed his identity fully, making it impossible for anyone to look away. He walked directly to the janitor, placing a hand on his shoulder with respect, not pity. The weight of that gesture was heavier than any reprimand or speech. In silence, it told the staff everything they needed to know. And then, his voice rang clear again. For too long, some of you have failed to see the people who carry this place on their backs. Respect is not optional. It is the foundation. Those words cut through the air like a blade. Employees lowered their eyes, ashamed of what they had ignored. The janitor stood taller now, his tears drying, not from shame, but from the sudden rush of dignity being returned. In that moment, the silent man became the hero of the store. Dignity never shouts, the CEO added, his voice steady. It simply stands, and in time, the world must stand with it. The staff, once complicit in silence, now found themselves clapping quietly, then louder, until the room was filled with a sound of respect the janitor had not heard in years. He wasn't invisible anymore. The janitor didn't need a promotion to feel victorious that day. He needed to be seen. And in being seen, he reminded everyone in that room of something they had forgotten. That silent strength is often the greatest kind. The CEO left the store that day knowing change had begun, not because of rules written on paper, but because of a truth carved into hearts. And as for the janitor, he would never walk those floors unnoticed again. Because sometimes, the strongest people are not the ones who demand respect, but the ones who quietly carry the world until respect finds them. A man's worth is not measured by the title on his shirt, but by the strength in his heart. Every workplace hides silent battles we may never see. But dignity, kindness, and respect can turn even the darkest days into a spark of hope. Where are you watching from? Share your thoughts on this story, and if it touched your heart, subscribe for more stories that remind us of the unseen strength all around us.